Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today for our Para Wednesday webinars. Today, the title of our presentation is Mastering the Art of Self-Promotion. Welcome, everybody. Before we officially begin, I just want to go over some housekeeping rules. We ask that you do stay muted during the presentation, just for respect of the speaker. If you have any questions, you can feel free to use the reaction to raise your hand gesture. You can also leave a question in the chat if you aren't comfortable being on the camera. As you know, this session is being recorded, so if you are uncomfortable with being on the camera, you can have your camera off. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Sam Laliberte is a serial entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and host of the Freedom Lifestyle podcast, where she interviews digital nomads, remote workers, and entrepreneurs who've pursued a lifestyle that provides schedule, location, and financial freedom. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Sam Laliberte. Take it away, Sam.
Thank you so much for that intro. I'm really grateful to be here. I was sharing that before we started and I was in the waiting room. I'm using a new tool to create this presentation that is definitely going to be more visual and beautiful, but hopefully the tech also works. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Hi, Sylvia. I saw you just joined. Thanks for being here. Okay. And now I just got to make it full screen. Okay, looks good. Awesome. So thank you for that amazing introduction. I am Sam. This is my first time working with Paro, being part of this community, getting to meet Lori and some of the team here. So I'm really excited to learn about all of you, the work you're doing with your clients, the work you're doing in your own businesses, and get to know this community more. Fun fact is I actually grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, which I would always consider to be Northern Ontario, but I know there's a strong Thunder Bay presence here who would probably correct me. But nonetheless, growing up in Sudbury was a big part of my childhood, my story. I very much enjoyed that perspective and being part of that community growing up. And now I actually live in Squamish, which is a small mountain town in British Columbia. I think it's really special that there's this moment in time where we can live wherever we want to live or wherever we need to live and still connect on the internet with one another in this way or build businesses from wherever we want to live, which is a big part of my story. Oh, did it stop sharing? Here, I'll share that. I saw some people are putting in the chat where they're joining from. That's helpful. I always like to have that perspective of where people are joining. I see someone else is from Mississauga. That's amazing. Sorry about that. Hopefully that works now. Let me know if you're having any trouble seeing it. Is it sharing for you?
I am unable to see it.
Maybe we can pause the recording for 1 second while I sort this out. One of the prompts I'm going to give you in a second is perfect. So what do you need to know about me to really trust my advice to say my advice today? I mentioned before that it's a really exciting time on the internet where anyone can kind of turn on their webcam, show up from anywhere in the world and share their lessons and share their learnings. And I think that's amazing. But if you're going to spend an hour with somebody and take notes and ideally action what they're going to say, it should be from somebody who has achieved something that you or your clients are looking to achieve or has been somewhere that you're trying to go. And so I always like to start my presentations with this. And the most important thing I want you to know about me is that I believe in fitting work around your life. So much of my career started with me trying to fit life into my work. But now I really help people to create a business around the lifestyle they want to live. And when we talk about our personal brands and the power of our personal brands, that's a big part of mine. That's a big part of how I support people. It's a big part of how I show up online. If you're nodding along and you're like, yes, work-life balance, this is why I created my business. I wanted to have more freedom. I wanted to be in control of my schedule. I agree. The internet, it's so exciting. Amazing. We are each other's people, and I think that's awesome. But I also shared that with you on purpose to start this off, because the best way for you to make common ground with somebody is to share why you do something, right? It's so much easier for you to connect with someone and connect your personal brand with somebody when you find what you believe in and connect with why they're doing it. And so that's the first tip I would share is for yourself, for your clients, you want to think about, what do you believe and why do you do what you do? And try to figure out if you can have a statement like this one. With that said, there are some things that I also do that would make me credible today. And so, as it was mentioned in my intro, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And so I've spent the last 6 years or so developing various revenue streams, all online, all that I can do from anywhere in the world. I've created courses, group masterminds, coaching, ebooks, e-commerce, definitely all digital products in different ways, whether it's a product or a service. And essentially, I've used my personal brand to find success in actually making this a successful business. And that doesn't mean that I'm an influencer, but rather that I've consistently tapped into my existing network, my own personal clout, as a way to move my community into making some type of decision and to taking some type of action, which is what I like to tell people sales is. I think we can get really scared by the term sales and having to sell my services, but really it's just guiding someone into making a decision and guiding someone into take action. So that's a little bit of what I've done. When I did have a job, I actually worked in employee advocacy. So I worked with companies in how they can actually get their own employees to tap into their social media networks and their personal brands to advance the company. So I can kind of speak to it in both directions, whether you work for a company or you're an entrepreneur. And since 2017, I've been really dabbling in social media, the online world. I got my Facebook account in my last year of high school, which dates myself, but is 2007. And I really started taking my personal brand more seriously when I launched my podcast in 2017. It doesn't mean that you need to have a podcast to have a personal brand, but it does mean that I found the channel that really worked for me, and it got me really excited in its potential. Now, a big reason why I am so passionate in your personal brand is because of one of the biggest mistakes I made in business early on. My very first business was in my early 20s, and this was the logo of the business. It was this beautiful jellyfish logo. We created an amazing community around it. We really focused on the logo, the business brand. And I think we did such a good job of it that actually someone got a permanent tattoo on their body of our business logo, which was the jellyfish logo. So that was really cool, but kind of awkwardly, we shut down that business 3 years later. And so what I really kind of regret about that experience is that now all of those social media pages, the blogs we wrote, the website we created, the following we built is now just kind of dead. It's just dormant. It's just sitting there. And I didn't do a good job at taking my community with me to whatever my next endeavor was. And that's what I think is the power of a personal brand is our lives are getting longer. If you're an entrepreneur, this might not be your last business. You're likely going to be doing creative things throughout your lifetime, trying out different offers and services in all different types of industries. And the more you can really harness your personal brand while you do that, that's going to be an investment that you can, guarantee will always be around of the brand as you. That's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. And now we're using some big terms in even just the marketing of this webinar, right? We talk about marketing to the online world, a global audience, organic marketing. So just to really like simplify what we're talking about, here's how I see it. Every business has a decision-making funnel. So no matter what you're selling, even if you're selling yourself as a content creator or someone who wants to do partnerships with, or as an employee who wants to move up in the organization, you are getting people to make a decision, and people will go through a process of making that decision. And you can either guide someone to make that decision from you with paid advertising, right? So that's like ads, affiliates, influencer marketing, search engine optimization, paying to guide people, or you can do it organically. So typically with your content, putting content out there that is organic, that's free, you're mostly then trading your time. And then to take it one level further, you can do organic marketing either by hiding behind your brand logo, right? Which is what I did with my first business. Didn't feel that comfortable putting myself out there as Sam. It was all about Ezzy Lynn, the jellyfish. Or you can use your personal brand, tap into your existing relationships, your own clout, your own network to persuade people to make that decision without having to rely on paid ads or affiliates. And it doesn't mean it's one or the other. It could be all three of these, but this is what we're going to talk about today since we only have so much time together. So we all have these skills a lot of the time, right? Especially at the end of this presentation, you're going to learn a number of tips and things that you can take action on. But fear doesn't always let us use the skills that we have. And I think this is going to be really powerful, especially those who are working with clients. You can teach them all the tactics, give them all the strategies, give them the templates. But if they don't believe that they are, worthy of putting themselves out there, if they have some fear around what people are going to think, they're never going to take action on this. And I learned this through my first group program. I did a podcast mastermind where on average, 50 people who would graduate from my podcast mastermind, these are people who wanted to launch a podcast, maybe 10 would actually publish their podcast. And for a really long time, I felt insecure about that. I felt like, am I making things too complicated? Is this not engaging? Am I doing something wrong? And I really realized after talking to other people in this space that unless someone has worked past their fears and that mindset piece, the skill isn't what they need. They actually need to work through that part first. And so you'll see throughout this presentation some mindset tips, some mini coaching moments to help you move past that. But I am curious in the chat, which one of these three most common fears resonates most with either you as an entrepreneur or some of your clients? What is the most likely reason that you won't actually act on today's knowledge? Number one, fear what people think. So maybe you have people following you from high school that you're like, oh, but that's not really my ideal audience. What will this person think of me if I'm now talking about my business on my personal channels? And it's that fear of judgment. Or maybe you're scared of talking into the void. Well, what if I show up live on Instagram or create a podcast or put something on YouTube and nobody shows up or nobody watches it, and I'm going to be embarrassed by that. My content isn't performing. Or three, self-doubt. So fear that your offers, your message, it's just not good enough. And you question yourself too much. And so you don't take up space at all. Put in the chat which one of those three resonates. Or maybe you're like, Sam, I've been doing the mindset piece. I am cured. This is something that I've really worked past and I'm totally good to go. Okay, number two, put those in the chat. And keep these in mind as you are working with clients who this might come up for, okay? So to get the most out of today, I think it's important that if you are going to advocate for yourself, advocate for your business, you got to believe in it. You got to, in your heart, like believe that what you've created is valuable in some way. It can help people, it can solve a problem, it can delight them, it can make their lives easier, more fun, more satisfying. Authenticity is going to be the root of this. So if you can't stand by what you're creating, that's like your first thing you need to solve for. And I can definitely help you that and with that. And I have some tips throughout and how to feel more confident. But mindset tip one, you want to get to the point where you are so confident in what you are creating and talking about and putting out there that you actually feel like it's a disservice to not tell people about it. And I think Tony Robbins was the first person that came up with that concept. And it really clicked for me. You really, and I know that can be a stretch, but you really want to get to that point. Like, this is so good. And like, this is so valuable or helpful that like, I have to tell people about it. When the show White Lotus came out, this is a perfect example of this. I heard about that show from like 10 different friends who were talking about it on Instagram, who were posting about it, who were mentioning it when I would hang out with them. It was so comfortable for us to advocate for this random show and stand behind, like, why can't we do that with our own offers and services? And so that's something that you really want to focus on and make sure you get to. The second today is stay open and curious. We're going to cover 3 big marketing concepts. You may have heard them before. Just because we know something doesn't mean we act on it, right? I know that it's not healthy to have dessert every night before bed. I know that the sugar keeps me awake. I know that my dentist says it's why I'm getting cavities, but do I always follow that advice? No. So if you've heard something before, today is an opportunity to check yourself. Am I actually acting on this? And the third one is take notes, stay engaged by participating. If you have aha moments, if something clicked, I want to know. I created a lot of custom material today. This isn't a presentation that I've done 100 times and I rolled out of bed and I'm just regurgitating old information. This is like new cutting edge stuff that I've been doing every day. So if something clicked, write it down. It helps you remember it. And also, I might ask you, what did you like from today's presentation? So I said earlier to put in the chat, what are your best hopes for today's conversation? I had a couple people say they're experienced in marketing, but haven't had time to actually use those skills in a while. They need an update. They want to share clients, highlights. Amazing. Absolutely. Can definitely cover that. Okay, so big concept number 1, nodding along. I would be surprised if I'm the first person who told you this, but that's okay. We're going to revisit this because whether you're a service-based brand, you're a business trying to get someone comfortable and excited to like work directly with you, or maybe you have a product-based business and you want your clients to, or your customers to connect with that story, people buy from people and brands that they know, that they like, and they trust. Even if you are a job seeker and you're looking to get a promotion or you're looking to get an opportunity, people will also create jobs for that they like. People will create opportunities for people that are top of mind. So it's a mix of like making sure you're top of mind, so you're visible, so that when opportunities come up, people think of you, but also that they think of you for the right things, right? It can't just be that you're on their mind. It has to be on their mind for the right reasons. So that's the first concept that I wanted to really share. And what does that really mean? So when we say no, people need to know you. To me, that means you need to be visible. So you need to be top of mind. You're taking up space on the internet. You exist. You know, you didn't just like meet somebody or post about something once and then didn't show up again for a year. You're on people's minds. You're visible. Like, you're human. I found some common ground with you. That's why those belief statements are so powerful. Why do you do what you do? What goes on in your personal life that I can connect with that we have in common? And then trust, like, are you credible? Do people trust what you say is true? And will people believe you? And we tend to swing too much one way, right? We have the people who just really focus on being liked. They're sharing their personal lives. They think that if I just go on Instagram every day or have a podcast and I just talk with my sister and we just talk about how fun our lives are and all the interesting things we get on to, that the sales will just come. But think about it. Like if you just like somebody and you don't trust them, yeah, it's cool that you have kids the same age as me. And it's great that, you're also vegan and you're making your healthy meals. But that, and this example is going to be very visual. That doesn't mean that I would necessarily trust you to inject me with something like Botox, right? You need to actually be credible as well as being liked. So I love that example because it really shows that it can't just be one or the other. And then the opposite is also true, right? Like if you're just posting and talking about your success, your client transformations, all the studying that you're doing, all the schooling that you have, all of the knowledge that you have, and I'm supposed to, I don't know, book a one-on-one coaching session with you or come to you with some type of real challenge, I might not feel comfortable doing that because I don't have that common ground or like with you. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about people liking you, but also trusting you, because people buy things emotionally, but then they're going to justify their purchase logically. So it can't just be one or the other. And here's my first quick win pro tip for you. This website, matchmaker.fm, essentially it's free for you to create a profile. And basically what this is these are all different people on there that have podcasts that are looking for guests. And now why might that be helpful for you? Well, when you first start thinking about your personal brand and putting yourself out there and trying to be credible, it can be overwhelming with where to start, right? Like, well, what do I say? What do I talk about? Even just preparing for this presentation. If we just did a 60-minute Q&A, it would be so much easier for me. I can answer questions. I can have a conversation. This is something I'm doing every day. But if I have to create something new and show up and be valuable or be likable, sometimes we don't know where to start. And so a great place to start is actually appearing on other people's podcasts, making a profile saying, here, this is what my expertise is. I'm available to be interviewed on these topics. And not only will that help you be visible in other channels, right? Now you're on someone else's podcast, people are hearing about you that way. But then you can take it one step further where you can actually take the interview and create content from it. So there's a really amazing tool I'm linking in the slides. It's an AI tool. You literally just throw the whole hour-long episode in, and it's going to automatically create shorter clips for social media where you're saying something interesting, you're saying something valuable. It works freakishly well, and you can totally brand it to your color schemes and all of that. So I've linked both of these really, really great resources. And again, it's just so much easier to being asked questions or have a conversation than having to just show up and be likable or show up and be credible. So on that note, really, when you're thinking about that and how would you prepare for something like this, start collecting your stories. Get your clients to start collecting stories. It is so much easier to share stories. And not only is it easier to tell a story than to share a fact, it's also more effective. So if I just said to you, hey, I run a podcast mastermind, but only 10 in every 50 people actually publish their episode. If I just shared that stat, you might not remember it. But I told a whole story around it about how I was working with podcasters. I started to feel insecure about it. I started to question myself. And then I realized that, hey, there was a piece of my coaching missing where it was that mindset piece, helping people work past the fears. I talked to other people who were in the space and they enlightened me. So I created a whole story around that, and that's going to help you remember it more. So we remember stories, not facts. So some homework for you and for your clients is to come up with your stories. You don't need to have a ton, but you should have some ready for podcast interviews, maybe sales calls if part of your business is getting someone on a sales call, social media content. What are some stories that would make my ideal client, customer, which we're going to go to next, actually like me? So relatable stories, common ground, being vulnerable, being authentic. If somebody is too picture perfect and polished, it's almost like there's a wall up, right? So you also want to create moments of authenticity so people can connect with you. What do you want to be known for? Have a couple of those stories. And then same with trust. What are some stories that would make somebody either trust me or believe what I'm saying is true? A great place for this is client transformations. So actually talking to clients you've worked with or your past customers and getting their story, like, how did I actually help you? How did my products or services help you? What was the impact of that? You should have a couple of those ready to go. Doesn't mean it's the classic video testimonial from your client, but think back of how you've worked with people or you've helped people, or you've served people, or your products have made a difference, and you've collected the impact that it's made. If you're new and you don't have those, what is your own personal transformation? Everybody who's been in this space typically is here for a reason. I created my podcast agency and my podcast courses because when I was trying to learn how to start a podcast, I was unemployed. And so thank goodness, because it was a full-time job, reading through all the resources on the internet, learning everything, trial and error, figuring out the tech, figuring out how to get it on Apple Podcast, figuring out how to train my voice. I spent so much time doing that I really wanted to create a product that would help people kind of skip the line rather than doing all of that, just get straight to publishing the content. And so that's my personal transformation story. And I can share that with people. This is also a great tip for somebody who feels that they're not good enough, that their content isn't good enough, their services are not good enough. That's the reason that they don't post. That's the reason they don't 100% believe in it, is to actually get them to go collect these stories, either your own stories or client stories. When you start to collect those and you start to realize, wow, like my course, my coaching, my program, my journal, my fancy hair shampoo, or my amazing candles that I've created. These, like, this is the role that they played in somebody's life. And you hear those stories, you can't help but be like, okay, I'm onto something here. Maybe I am good enough. And so that's a great way to work past that. Okay, big concept number 2. So who is your ideal or favorite customer? And now the reason why we want to pick one person, like, I literally want you to put in the chat the name of this person, okay, is because we can't be everywhere. We can't be everywhere all the time. That's exhausting. And you know me, I believe that I should fit my work into my life. So I don't want to be working all the time. And so we want to be effective with our time. And so I want you to think of one person, either maybe your most profitable person that you helped, or someone who's like the easiest and most satisfying to serve. If you have like multiple different products or multiple different customers, which products are you most excited to sell right now? Like, if one took off overnight, like, which one would give you the most joy? Not necessarily money, but the most joy. So think about that one customer. If you don't have customers yet, make it aspirational. Think of like who you're creating it for, and you need to give them a name. And I'd love if you put the name in the chat. So my person is Maddie. Okay. I'll never forget working with Maddie. Maddie was working for a marketing agency, and she was a really talented graphic designer and social media manager. She was completely burnt out. She was working on weekends. She was working late at night. She was barely being paid more than minimum wage, and she was exhausted. And at the same time, she had a new lover in her life, Jordy. And Jordy had a business he could run from anywhere in the world. And Jordy wanted to go to Australia for a year. They're Canadian as well, and to try having that life adventure. And Maddie, she really wanted to go with him on that, right? And I supported Maddie in actually making that leap, from actually being able to quit her job at an agency to position herself as a freelancer. And guess what? Maddie went on that trip. And I got so much joy following Maddie on social media and seeing about their Australian adventures. And when she came back on her trip, I love when I see her businesses growing. And whenever I talk to her, there's no way she's going back to an agency. So Maddie is who I think about when I'm scared, when my fear comes up. And we're going to come back to that in a second. So homework for you, homework for your clients, really get to know this person and really, give them a personal profile, give them a name, kind of answer some of these questions. The main things though, is like, what is their pain profile? So what are their major concerns, frustrations, major fears? And what is their desire profile? What are their aspirations? What are their goals? Maddie had a fear of missing out on this opportunity of a lifetime with her partner. She was frustrated by being burnt out and not being paid well. And she had the desire to pick up her life and go on this adventure without tapping into her savings. She really desired to be in control of her schedule, and she didn't want to trade her time for money. So I know that pain and that desire really well. And that helps me when I'm trying to think about creating content on my personal brand that's going to connect with Maddie or other Maddies and my ideal audience. And I would take it like one step further, going back to the mindset tips. So when we are worried that no one is going to show up for our Instagram lives, or that colleague I had 6 years ago in a completely different industry who is going to totally roll their eyes at me when they see me talking about my new business and is just not going to get it. When we start focusing on this judgment and what people are going to think, it's because we're making it about ourselves, right? And we're making it about the impact of us, and it's not about us. Right? We are in this business, we're creating these services and these offers to really help people. So we need to make it about Maddie. I need to think about Maddie. I need to think about what she needs to hear, that person on the other end of it, and help get my ego out of the way. And that's going to be really helpful when we are leveraging our personal brands, advocating for ourselves. So name that ideal customer. I even like to call it my favorite customer, not just ideal, and make it about them anytime that fear comes up. It's also really helpful in answering this question, which is literally the most frequently asked question I think I've ever received in business, which is, okay, I know I need to have a personal brand. I know I need to create content, but like, where should I create content? Which channel should I post on? And the truth is it's twofold. So you definitely want to create content on the channel and the places where your ideal or favorite client is, right? There's no point of posting on LinkedIn and creating a whole blog series on LinkedIn and videos on LinkedIn if Maddie isn't on LinkedIn. If she is scrolling Instagram and she's not thinking about her professional life in that way, she's not even there. So yes, you want it to be creating content where Maddie is and your ideal client is, but also like where you want to show up and in a way that you're going to enjoy creating content. You're going to enjoy putting yourself out there. It's hard enough as it is, like taking up space, advocating for yourself, saying what I say matters, standing up for what you believe in, but then to also be doing it in a way that doesn't feel natural. And it just feels like it's such an uphill battle in terms of what you're creating. So like for me, I chose podcasting. I'm very comfortable talking. I could talk for hours. I could talk for days. I love chit-chatting. I'm very extroverted. I find it energizing. So for me, podcasting made sense. I also am quite comfortable with talking to the camera, having my phone out, sharing about my life. It's very natural for me to want to tell people about the adventures I'm going on when I'm traveling the world, working from anywhere. And I find all the filters on Instagram and all the stickers quite fun. So I'm predominantly on Instagram. That's where I like to show up. So it needs to be a mix of both, but I will give you some up-to-date like pro tips of what it takes to be successful on the major platforms. So if you're going to be a blogger and you're going to be creating blogs, and that's going to be the way you have a personal brand, Google right now is really prioritizing long form content. And I always give the example, if you Google or Brave Search or Bing, whatever your search engine of choice is, if you search, how do I boil an egg? Oh my goodness. You are going to get the history of boiling an egg. You are going to get details on the first time someone ever boils an egg. You are going to get information on the silverware that you should use in your home to boil an egg, the music you might want to have on while you're boiling an egg. And at the very end of the article, you're going to get that it's at this temperature for this much time. Okay. That is not an accident. This is because this is what it's taking right now to have your blog content and your web pages actually show up in search results. So we need it to be longer form content. Instagram, Facebook, these major social media platforms that Meta owns, they're prioritizing video. So Instagram reels are going to have way more reach than what we got away with before. You know, we could post a really beautiful image or a quote or a client testimonial, and it would get all this engagement. Unfortunately, now it's all about video. And so that doesn't mean it needs to be a video of you talking to the camera, but it means you need to think about how you can turn content that you might feel comfortable creating, like quotes, like facts, like how-to guides, and add a video element to it, which is a lot of tools to do that. And I'm happy to share some if that's new for you to do. YouTube. So YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. Okay, so after Google, the next place people are searching for things is YouTube. So what's going to perform well on YouTube is going to be stuff that's very relevant or timely. If you guys are following Taylor Swift, I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. There's a lot of content right now about her and the football player. If I create a YouTube video about like, oh my gosh, Taylor Swift, football, who would have guessed? And maybe my business is to do with like health and fitness, and I want to attract clients who are interested in sports and athleticism. So I'm incorporating that into the video, but I'm basically like piggybacking on this viral moment or this thing that's relevant that people are searching. That's going to perform well. What else will perform really well on YouTube is educational content. So content where someone can learn something, how-tos, content that answers a question. And so that's what it really takes to be successful on these ones. And then podcasts, it's edutainment. That is the most in-demand type of content. So not only content that's educational in some way, but also entertaining. If you can balance those two, then that's going to perform really well on podcasting channels. So create content on a platform where that favorite ideal client is, but also in a way that works for how you like to show up. Third, final big marketing concept is your decision-making funnel. You may have seen this before. Some people call it a customer journey. Some people call it a sales funnel. I like decision-making funnel, right? Because all sales is guiding people into making a decision. And so again, it doesn't matter what type of business you have. Maybe your funnel, people will move through it quicker if you are selling a $20 candle than if you are selling a $2,000 coaching program. But someone is still going through the process of discovering you exist, deciding that they want to work with you or buy from you or buy your offers, to being so satisfied with that experience that they tell people about it. And then that's where the loop starts again. And that's what we want to be thinking about. And there's different things that you can do and create for each stage of this decision-making funnel with your personal brand and with creating content and with marketing organic content. And we'll talk a little bit about that on this next slide. But really your homework is to think about like, do I actually have a decision-making funnel for my favorite product or my service right now? Is this something that I need to be creating as I think about the new year? And how can I leverage my personal brand to really guide someone through this funnel? So of course, there's the top of funnel, there's middle of funnel, and there's bottom of the funnel. So top of funnel, right? The stuff when people are just discovering me, knowing I exist, these would be blog posts or podcasts that maybe you show up on, or you're creating your own podcast, or social media, or maybe you have free resources on your website or free downloads. Maybe you're doing PR where you're getting featured in press or media or in other blogs. Anything that is going to be really easily accessible for anyone to find, and that's going to get them to actually discover that you even exist, right? Even just your personal networks, right? Maybe they already know you exist, but now are aware that you exist in more than just Sam as the girl from Squamish, BC that has the Bengal cat, but I'm also this woman who has multiple revenue streams, and I'm really passionate about helping people create a business that gives them that freedom, right? So how can you start getting people to create awareness of you and what you want to be known for? And then middle of funnel is typically when you move someone to something that's higher value, probably more gated, right? So you can't just like find it on the internet without either signing up for an email newsletter, or maybe it's one of those downloads on a website where you have to like exchange your phone number or your email. Maybe it's a live webinar like this, right? Where I had to pre-register. I had to give you my contact information. I had to show up at a specific time. So this is typically middle of the funnel stuff where you already know I exist, but now you're going to know just a bit more about what I can offer, a bit more about the value, a bit more about the solution that I provide. And we're now at the middle of the funnel. The bottom of your funnel are things like sales calls. So actually getting someone, okay, now they've read an email, or they've downloaded an ebook, or they attended my webinar. And now if I have a coaching program or something where people are working one-on-one or working in a group setting and they want to answer some questions and learn about it, we give them a one-on-one free call. Okay. That's bottom of the funnel. Maybe you have a product-based business. Bottom of the funnel would look like a promo, a sales period, sending out an email with the clock ticking of how much time is left, creating some urgency around actually making the decision. But now you're like asking them to make the decision. At the beginning, we're just letting them know you exist. In the middle, you're giving them more of a reason to actually work with you and buy from you. And at the bottom, you are asking for the sale. Advocacy, the very final stage, of course, is like delivering an awesome product or service. But then how do we start the loop again? So this can be having a referral program or client testimonials that people share online, or that you get to share, anything to get them to now start the loop again. And a quick win that you can keep in mind that I think is so important, that I see people making a lot of mistakes on, is actually give people a reason to take that next step with you. So have a call to action that is compelling. I see a lot of people say like, hey, join my email newsletter or follow me on social media. It's like, I follow 2,000 people on Instagram right now. I can barely see my friends. Why do I need another person on my feed taking up space? Or I'm getting so many emails right now that I'm like missing my important emails. The other day, I missed a super important appointment because it wasn't in my calendar, and the person just sent an email reminding me, and I missed it because I had so much stuff on there. People are spread thin right now, okay? And so we need to give them a reason to take that next step with you. So make it valuable, right? Like, join my email newsletter for weekly journal prompts, or a roundup of all of my favorite resources for the month, or book a free, no obligation call with me, and you're going to get immediate advice, immediate clarity on your next step. Or record a video testimonial about your experience, and in return, I'll give you, I don't know, something for free, or some kind of discount, or even a referral commission for them actually doing it. So give people a reason to do that, and make sure it's compelling. So homework, kind of think about your favorite product or service, think about that decision-making funnel, and are your call to actions right now compelling? On your website, if you have a podcast, if you're ending the episode, is the reason that you're telling people to go on this website, or go visit this blog, or follow me here, check out this, is it self-serving, or are you really giving them a reason to do it? Okay, so do a quick audit of your items. And this is because that in 2023 and beyond, when it comes to organic marketing, when it comes to not paying for somebody's attention, right? We could throw an ad in it, and I can guarantee you'll get impressions. You could pay for someone to literally see this, and that is an option. But today we're talking about organic marketing. And in order to get somebody's attention right now, people are busy, right? We already have full days. I heard that there's another webinar after this, 15 minutes, right? We are like filling our days up. We're doing a lot of things. Why should I stop what I'm doing right now to listen to this podcast episode, read your email newsletter, stop scrolling on social media to read your full caption or watch your whole video? You need to make it to share like what is in it for them. And you need to do so quick. And you also want to remember that people are typically consuming content and looking at stuff from their phones. So it also needs to be eye friendly from a mobile device, which typically means, right, formatting. I'm a big fan of like bullet points. Here's some key takeaways. Here's some like key things to learn. Make it really easy for somebody to see. Have a really like strong opening hook. Can be creating intrigue or shock value, or a statement that someone's going to agree with, but it needs to really you need to be earning people's attention more than we had to in the past. And I think with artificial intelligence, just making it easier and easier for anybody to create content, it's probably going to be harder and harder for us to earn people's attention. So it's something that we just want to perfect now, right? I could be doing anything with my time today. Why should I do what you're asking me to do? Read what you want me to read, all of that. And I have a mindset tip for this one, because you are going to create content and you're going to put yourself out there, and it's not going to get the engagement that you want. On my Instagram reels now, typically I'll get a few thousand views on my Instagram reels. And just the other day, I put out one that barely broke 500. And I was like pretty bummed about it. And this happens to me even as someone who's doing this all the time. I don't have the vanity metric that I want. I get discouraged. I feel embarrassed. I make it about me. And so, one, I have to check myself and make it about Maddie, but also like really imagine if there were 500 people in the room that I'm in right now. I'm in a pretty small room, but if they were all here and they were listening to what I was saying or what I put out there, I would be really stoked. But for some reason, when it comes to the internet and it just becomes a little digital number, we get so caught up and we really lose sight of like what that means. So imagine these are real people in front of you, and I bet you'd be more excited with your performance. But even if it's just one person, even if just your Maddie was there, that's all that really matters, because this is who we're creating this for. So as I wrap up, I really want to go to the slide that I started on, right? Which is the fear and the reasons why you're not going to do this or your client's not going to do it. And those things that are going to continue to show up for you. I mean, even me, like I'll make a plan, I'll come up with what I'm going to do. And then as I go to put it out there sometime, as it comes closer, I can have my old stories of, am I good enough? What will people think? I distinctly remember when I was launching my own podcast in 2017, my partner was living in San Francisco. I was in Toronto. And so luckily it was still a reasonable time of day for him. But for me, it was in the middle of the night. I could not sleep. I was freaking out about what people are going to think of me. This girl's had one business. Who does she think she is? Having a podcast about business. Is my voice even good enough? I was recording it from my iPhone. Is the quality up to par? I was so worried about those things. All that fear was in front of me. And I'm so glad I pushed past that, because it ended up being the start of my journey of really actually being able to help Maddies and really be able to leverage my personal brand in a meaningful way to not only create the lifestyle I want to have in my business by effectively like selling my products and services, but also to like make an impact in the world in the way I want to do. So if you're finding yourself getting caught up on that, think about the people that you look up to on the internet. I bet there's people's podcasts you listen to. I bet there's people you follow on LinkedIn, email newsletters you subscribe to, people on social media. No one typically wakes up with that much confidence or is born with that much confidence to really put themselves out there in that way. Like, confidence really comes from consistently doing something and also having more clarity on what's going to work well. And so these people are experienced at doing it. They've been doing it for a while. And aren't you so happy they did? Aren't you so happy they got out of their own way and moved past their fears, because it's benefited you so much? So really think that about yourself. And also like, surround yourself with people who are doing it too. A community like Pero is such a great place to start, because you're around people who are starting businesses and are doing something different and know what it takes to sell that, and know that leveraging your personal brand and putting yourself out there is part of selling and is part of having a business. And there's a potential in doing that. And the more those types of people show up on your feeds, the more normal that it makes it for you. I'm not the only person I follow who is like shamelessly posting about their life, advocating for themselves, taking up space. And if you don't have a lot of those people in your life, I can definitely be that. So a couple offers on my final page of how we can grow together. Feel free, follow me on your preferred social media platform. I'll follow back right away. I'll accept right away. We can support each other in this journey. And I have some other resources. So if you want to go deeper, either into your own fears or your client fears, I have a free podcast episode I created on self-promotion that I've linked. If you want to have a one-on-one like clarity call, maybe you want to review some of the homework that I gave you in this presentation and you want to have a plan to action it or get some feedback, we can totally talk one-on-one. Or if you're like, hey, this podcast thing, Sam, this could be something that I'm really interested in. I created a code 50% off all of my various podcast courses with Paro 50. So I'll include those there, and I will stop sharing my screen and see if we have any questions. See, Jessica said, I hope to be able to get myself into the mindset that I can and will be able to promote myself. That is a huge struggle for me. So I love that someone commented, I believe in you. I do believe in you too. Jessica, if you're still here, I'm curious which of the fears would stop you from actually doing that. You mentioned that you want to be able to promote yourself. Curious what could be holding you back. And then if anybody else has a question, we still got 5 minutes.
Hi, yes, I am still here. This is Jess.
Hi, Jess.
I was actually just writing something, but I said that I'm at work right now, so I just have my video off. What's holding me back the most is the possibility of negative feedback from others. I'm just starting out in floral design, and I've seen people post negative comments before, and that's a fear of mine.
Negative comments that you're promoting yourself, or negative comments on your actual floral offers?
Probably on my floral, maybe on me. I don't know yet. Just it's there.
Well,
that fear is there.
That fear is there. And is that fear real? Did this actually happen, or is this just imagining what's going to happen?
This is imagining.
Okay.
And I think it's just because I've seen people post on people's comments, and it's not pleasant sometimes. So I'm just worried that it's going to happen to me.
Totally. We tend to remember negative things more than remember positive things, right? Like, I bet if you went on Facebook or social media or some kind of community for anything related to your niche and you went on their social media pages, I can guarantee you're going to see way more positive comments than negative. I guarantee that. But we focus on those one or two little negative comments. In the grand scheme of things, that doesn't matter, because that person who doesn't like your flowers or doesn't like you, they were never going to buy from you anyway. They were never going to support your business, support your lifestyle anyway. And so the person who was never going to buy from me, we can't let that person prevent us from helping the people who will, right? We can't talk to that one person. But it is so common for us to think about that. And something I find a lot of solace in is there's an amazing unfollow button. There's amazing delete friend. If somebody is not vibing with my content, they don't think my stuff is high quality, they find me annoying, they don't want to be hearing somebody talk about themselves on social media, they're just there to watch skateboarding videos or, watch influencer content, and they don't want to see my stuff, that is actually okay. And that is their choice. And the power works both ways, right? Like, if you're not happy with something you're seeing, you just unfollow them. I think that, I'd rather, if I'm having some type of effect on somebody, then I'm doing something right. Like, I'm at least being visible, at least they're seeing my content. And that can sometimes be a start. I love faith over fear. Absolutely. Yes. Focus on what can go right, not what can go wrong. I think that's a huge mindset piece. And you caught it yourself. Like, it didn't even actually happen, right? We're just like assuming the worst case scenario. And it's like, even if that did, then what? You delete the comment. I remember I did a paid ad for my podcast mastermind program, and someone commented, that is just what the world needs, another podcast. And I was like, that's mean. But there was 5 other people that were like, oh, so cool. And like tagging their friends, being like, I've been telling you, you've got a podcast voice, or like, hell yes, you need to do this. And I just was bummed about it. I was annoyed about it. And then I deleted the comment.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'd love to see some of your flowers and your floral designs. Let's find a way to stay in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I know that the Paro team has another webinar, and so you, like me, probably need a bathroom break, need a water break. So I'm happy to give you that 1 minute off early. But I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for your patience with the technical difficulties at the beginning. You know, imperfect is better than perfect, and it's better to just show up messy than to wait until I completely nailed all of this new tool before I came in here and tried to share what I had to say. I believed in it too much to let the fact that I was trying a new tool stop me, and I hope that gives you permission to show up imperfect sometimes too. You're welcome, Mary.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sam, for that awesome presentation. I really loved it, and I hope that you all found it very valuable. If anybody here would like a copy of the recording, please email me at communications2@paro.ca. You can also reach out to Lori, same email that you used to register as well. And we have a hard stop at 12 here. So I'd like to wish you all an amazing day, and thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll send
Sophia.
it as well.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Mary. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Recording.